My sincere apologies for being so profoundly absent from your screens for the last 6 weeks. You see, I am here in theatre. I've been in rehearsals for a major national production of Cinderella, where I play the evil stepmother. Not many other actresses could take on that role. In fact, I'd go as far to say as no other British actresses could take on the role such as I have and bring in so much depth of character, emote on so many levels, and terrify the children as much as I do. Some may call it a pantomime, but I do not. I call it the chance to explore another part of one's psyche and delve to a much lower level. I'm in the pantomime with a very good friend of mine, Junie Brown, also known as Dorothy Cotton from EastEnders. June and I go way back. We've been friends for many, many years, since the beginning of my career when I landed my first role as Felicity Kendall's bottom double on The Good Life, through to the lows of when I had to expose a left breast in an episode of Chamomile Lawn in the early 90s. We've had incredibly different careers. And one day I was talking to her in my dressing room, and I turned to her and I said, "Junie, darling, we've been friends for so many years." And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, I know." And I said, "Junie, my career has been so vastly different from yours. I performed at the RSC, at the NT, on Broadway, on the West End. I've been a Bond girl. I've been in Star Wars. I've been in many multi-million-pound films. And you, my darling, whilst you've had a wonderful career, have been Dorothy Cotton in EastEnders. Does this ever bother you?" And she turned to me, cigarette in hand, and she said, No, it doesn't bother me. I believe, Vivienne, that at the end of the day, we all end up at the end of Brighton Pier in a production. It doesn't matter where you start from, that's where you'll end up." That was it. Within those few words, I'd heard the most deeply profound and wise words I'd ever heard in my entire life. It doesn't matter what path your life takes, you will always end up at the end of a pier. That's why Junie Brown is one of my wisest friends. So I'm guessing that my message to you today is, don't worry which direction your career takes. You will always end up at the end of Brighton